Do you all remember when you were in grade 6 or 7? Let's take a walk down memory lane for a second. Do you remember the excitement of hanging out with your friends, studying for tests, earning pocket money, or maybe even the thrill of getting scolded by your parents or teachers? But let's stop there. Have you ever noticed that in those years, you increasingly get scolded more? Or have you ever questioned why? Before we go deeper, I'd like to tell you all a story about a girl. A few years ago, she was a total mess. She was always behind her social and academical life. She was mischievous, downright stubborn, and unbelievably annoying. She wondered why she was like this for quite a long time. Was it just a phase, or was it just her nature? But then, looking at her role models that has always practiced self-love, she noticed something. What she thought was self-love was actually just selfishness in disguise. Now, this might sound familiar to you, especially to parents. I like to quote Meg Saunders, a mother. She said that my child loses her temper, argues with adults, refuses to comply with rules. She deliberately annoys people and blames others for mistake and misbehavior. She's touchy, easily annoyed by others, angry, resentful, spiteful, and vindictive. Well, does this sound familiar to you? This happens to most children my age because we're going through an adolescence phase. To define what I mean by adolescence, I would cite the WHO or World Health Organization, which states the adolescence is a phase of life between childhood to adulthood through ages 10 to 19. It is an especially unique stage of the human development and a very important time of laying out the foundations of good health. Now, according to Medical News Today, written by John Vinnes and then medically reviewed by Laurie Lawrence, in the fifth step of adolescence, teens experience something called an identity crisis. We don't know who we want to be, and we're confused about ourselves. Who are we gonna be? What are we gonna be? And sometimes we have troubles fitting into society, sometimes due to low self-esteem. When I was going through this, I was stubborn. I did what I wanted to do, didn't care about other people's feelings. And from what I've heard, I was rude. But let me assure you all first that I'm not the only child going through this. Because from what I have also observed, my sister is going through this. But that's not the only piece of evidence I have. According to Professor D. Jackson, a professor and nurse scientist specializing in nursery, a significant amount of adolescents experience problems with mental health, eating disorders, and most importantly, behavior problems. But these behavior problems faced by us teenagers are actually rooted in an even deeper struggle, the aforementioned identity crisis. This confusion about who we want to be leads us to behave like this. We are desperate for the truth about ourselves. I know this is something that all parents wouldn't want their children to go through, so I started researching this and found a critical solution. The solution to an identity crisis is actually self-love. But a lot of people confuse self-love with selfishness or narcissism. But what is, or even is there a boundary between these two? Well, according to one of the most influential psychologists of our time, author and professor Jordan Peterson, self-love is you prioritizing yourself without hurting anybody, but selfishness is hurting others to make you feel better. Let me give you an example. Self-love is setting boundaries to give yourself time to heal. And these boundaries are set respectfully, but selfishness, on the other hand, completely disregards the other person, hurting their feelings. Now, according to Connected Family Services, narcissists exhibit higher level of self-esteem than average people, but continuously beat themselves up for their own insecurities. On the other hand, people with self-love still demonstrates a high level of self-esteem, but uses their insecurities to become a better person to fix their flaws. By distinguishing the two, you know where you land on that scale, and the boundaries will automatically apply. I myself have applied self-love towards my life, and I admit I still need to improve it, but it has changed a lot in my life. I'm able to socialize better, my grades have improved a lot, but most importantly, my relationships with other people has improved. But let me get one thing straight. Self-love isn't just doing the things you would like. No, self-love isn't going for the pedicure then a manicure to make yourself feel happy and pretty, or becoming a potato couch and shopping online forever and ever for the things you don't even really need. And believe me, this happens to me a lot. But self-love is also doing the things you don't like, but you know can benefit you more in the future. But that leads us to another question. How can we improve our self-love? Well, to improve our self-love, we need to first recognize or diagnose which one we have. Do we have self-love or do we have selfishness? But in order to do that, we need to first be brutally honest with yourself. The slides are lagging, but no matter how deep you try to stuff it down, you obviously will know if you're selfish or not, right? If you're not honest with yourself, how could you really assure yourself that you're not selfish? That you actually have self-love? So if you all want to change for the better, we need to first be honest with yourself, reflect on yourself. Now, to help us identify selfishness, I will cite Psych Central medically reviewed by Bethany Judy PSYD. She said that for selfish people, their kindness will come with a price. They use others on manipulation tactics to get what they want. They have no regard on how the behavior impacts other people, and they feel entitled to whatever they want. Does it sound like you? If you don't portray these characteristics, then it's safe to say that you're a person with self-love. But there's always room for improvement, right? How? For starters, we could develop a good sense of self-awareness. Reflect on your thoughts, emotions, behaviors. Try to understand the underlying reasons behind any unintentional selfish tendencies. This self-awareness can help you find what triggers you, enabling you to make conscious choices to change. This solution will both help you improve your self-love and change from being a selfish to a more caring person. Now, to sum everything up, recognizing that self-love involves prioritizing yourself without hurting anyone, we can strive to become more compassionate, understanding, and empathic human beings. And let me remind you all first that adolescence is not easy. It's a big challenge for us children as we navigate through the path between childhood and adulthood. Behavior problems, identity crisis, and struggles with self-esteem are something that most or even all children go through. So, let us all take some time in our busy lives to reflect on ourselves, to understand ourselves, and help others that are going through this difficult phase of life. With some support from others and understanding the difference between self-love and selfishness, children and teenagers might just be able to survive adolescence. Thank you.